Okay. Welcome to the second call for Wheels of Welcome for Unbound Gravel. My name is Marley Blonsky. I'll be taking you through things tonight. I'm really hoping for tonight to be interactive, and answer any questions that you might have. So to kind of get things going, if you have the chat window up, go ahead and introduce yourself in the chat. You don't need to say your name because that'll come up anyway, but just maybe where you live and maybe something that you are either concerned about or excited about. For, yeah, let's do concerned or excited about for Unbound. So go ahead and just introduce yourself in the chat, and I'll keep an eye on that as we start going. You'll see some new photos in this deck from last time. If you pay attention closely, I was actually just in Emporia. I was lucky enough to be selected to be a coach for Unbound Camp this year. So I got to go and ride on all the roads that we'll be riding on. Got to ride a good, actually, I think I did the entire 25-mile course and a lot of the 50-mile course, and things are looking really good. And I'm really, really excited to share with you some tips and tricks, and hopefully get you successfully across that finish line. So awesome. I don't actually, I said your name would come through, but your name has come through as Samsung. So somebody who's using a Samsung is coming from Shawnee, Kansas, and they're concerned about the larger gravel in the hills. And we will definitely talk through that on this call. This picture, actually, the one that I have up, is a great representation of most of the gravel on the 25-mile course. It's pretty small, pretty manageable. Towards the side of the road, it gets a little soft. And we did have some rain this week that this picture was taken. But you can see, there's pretty clearly delineated tire tracks, and it's pretty obvious where to ride. And that's really what the gravel looks like for most of the 25 and the 50 mile. Um, Awesome. Just reading your note, Kristen. Concerned about mud. I have good news for you. They're most likely, regardless of the weather, on the 25-mile, there likely won't be hardly any spots of mud. And on the 50, there might be one area. But it's totally doable, and it's small enough that you can it's short enough that you can carry your bike the whole way. Um, Mia's doing it by herself. That's awesome, though. My friend um, Ben has gotten rained out of a couple events this spring. I don't know if anybody else has had that happen, but we just had another event here in Northwest Arkansas last weekend get canceled because of the weather. So fingers crossed that everything from here on out goes well. Um, Robert is a lifelong native Emporian. That's so awesome. Interested in the free navigation apps for phones to use during his ride. Also, there's a 25-mile trail up to see online. Yes, and we will talk about that during this call. Lindsay from Amarillo, concerned about descents. There are no steep, intense descents on either the 25 or the 50, I'm happy to tell you about. And Neil is excited to participate after years of spectating. So please continue to introduce yourselves in the meeting chat, and I'm going to go ahead and get the call going. Yeah, Cynthia, that's a great concern. Um, about sharp gravel. Luckily, on the sections that we are on, the gravel isn't too sharp. So, on tonight's agenda, we do have an hour and a half tonight. Last time we only had an hour. This time I bumped it up to an hour and a half. So that way, if we have more questions, I'm happy to stay on and answer them as we go. But I'll quickly introduce you to myself and the team. And we're going to talk a little bit about Emporia logistics. We'll talk about parking, packet pickup, schedule, all of that stuff. We'll spend some time talking about day of essentials, what you need to be carrying with you for the actual event itself. We'll talk a little bit about what to do when things go wrong. You might notice I said if things go wrong. No, we're going to be prepared for when things go wrong because inevitably something will, but you're going to be totally prepared to take care of it. And then we'll have lots of time for Q&A. As always, feel free to put your questions or thoughts into the chat as we go through, and I'll either answer them as it makes sense or answer them immediately. So, hi, I think most of you that have been on here I've interacted with in some way, but my name is Marley. I am a professional cyclist. I am not a coach. You'll notice that I'm not telling you how to specifically train for Unbound. Instead, we're talking more about the preparation. And what makes me qualified to do this? Well, I've done Unbound 4 times, and successfully finished each time. I did the 50 twice and I've done the 100 twice. And this year I'm coming back for the 100 again. I've done Mid-South a bunch, Steamboat gravel, Big Sugar gravel. I ride gravel all the time. And I'm also a sponsored rider for Cannondale. I'm on the Shimano Gravel Alliance, and I have a lot of experience on gravel. So I think I'm well qualified to pass on some of my knowledge and some of my experience with gravel. I was hoping Sean was going to be able to join us tonight. He might join us a little bit later. I'm just scrolling down the list. I don't think either Sean or Christy are on. But if you see this face running around Emporia, say hello to him. He is the race director. And then Christy was on our call last time and had some really great insight to share. She's the marketing manager, but she really is the queen of all things Unbound, and is just absolutely phenomenal at making things happen. So if you see either of them, make sure to say hi to them. So, just a review from last time about what is the Wheels of Welcome program. My whole goal with this is to make sure that you show up to the start line feeling like you're prepared and that you have a community of folks behind you. So, the first one is to cultivate an inclusive community. So, both through these calls, through the Facebook group, which has been a little quiet this year, which is totally fine. And then we'll do a shakeout ride in Emporia. We'll hopefully cultivate an inclusive community, and maybe you'll make some friends that you can continue to ride with. But the cool thing about communities is they can be both short term and long lasting. So my hope is that with all of you having gone through this, you will then also be an ambassador of, it's going to sound silly, but being nice, helping each other out, and just being a good community spirit out there on the actual day of. I want to help lower the barrier to entry for gravel events. We all know what it's like to be a beginner and have questions on questions, and you don't even know what to ask. So my hope is to lower that and make it more inclusive. And then finally, educate and help prepare you all for success. And that is success as defined by you. In my mind, if you make it to the start line and you make it across that finish line, that's a success. Things happen that could keep you from getting to the finish line, but we're going to try and prevent as many of those things as possible through the prep that we are doing. So, as a community, I do have a couple expectations for everyone, and we haven't had any issues, but I like to just go over this. Starting from a point of mutual respect. We all have different starting points, experiences, our goals, and our rides are going to look different. Respect each other, respect the lands that we ride on, so making sure we're not littering, things like that, and respect everyone at the event. And that should be pretty easy. There are no dumb questions. Feel free to ask whatever tonight on the call and in the Facebook group and through email. A little bit of research does go a long way. But things like, are these tires okay? There's something to be said about personal experience and personal preference that no matter how much research you do, it's still helpful to ask somebody else. So please do feel free to ask questions. There are no dumb questions. I remember just a real quick story. When I first got my bike as an adult, I had I had Presta valves, which are the really skinny ones, as opposed to Schrader valves on my tire, which are the thicker ones. And I had never used Presta valves before. I didn't know that you had to unscrew the little thing. And so I was trying to air my tires up, trying. No air was going in. And I finally got so frustrated. I took my bike back to the bike shop and I was like, this thing is broken. I can't air the tires up. And the guys at the bike shop kind of laughed at me, and good natured. They showed me how to do it. But that just is an example of there's so many nuances and little things that you learn over time in cycling and gravel cycling and endurance cycling that there is nothing that you could ask me that would surprise me. And I look forward to your questions. And then finally, I didn't even talk about this. I'm the co-founder and the executive director of All Bodies on Bikes, which a lot of you are probably familiar with, but we really believe that all bodies are good bodies, all bikes are good bikes, and all rides should be celebrated. So for anybody who's getting out there, I am proud of you and really excited to see what you're capable of at Unbound. So the program components, we've gone over this before, but we've got these training calls. So this is our second call. We also have the online Facebook group. Feel free to use that, y'all. That's your group. I know Facebook can be problematic, but if you want some crowdsourced knowledge or want to share your setup or get feedback on your setup, that can be a really great place to do it. And then we will also do a shakeout ride in Emporia, and I'm excited that we have the details of that in a couple slides so you can add it to your calendar because we have all the details of what's going to be happening. So, we're going to get into Emporia logistics. I thought I had another slide here, but I didn't. So here are some important schedule things that you need to know. The expo and packet pickup happen on both Thursday and Friday. They have the schedule up on the unboundgravel.com website for who's giving talks when there's autograph signings, when the shakeout rides are happening. All of that schedule has been posted at unboundgravel.com. But the important things to know is that on Thursday, both the expo and the packet pickup are from 2 to 7 p.m. On Friday, the expo is from 10 to 5 p.m. and packet pickup is from 10 to 7 p.m. A lot of folks will go first thing and there's a big line. I found that if you go kind of in the middle of the afternoon, you can usually walk straight up. You'll need to bring your ID. And actually, this year, I've got a slide about it. I don't know if everybody saw the email that came out today, but you are going to need, I think it's called the My Lifetime app, to pick up your packet. Great question, Robert. Packet pickup is at the Lyon County Historical Society. So it is right downtown. It's on Commercial Street, kind of right in the middle of all the hubbub. So if you're familiar with Emporia, I actually have this on the next slide right here. So there's this main street, Commercial Street, that has Granada Coffee Company and Gravel City Roasters and Merchant Bikes is on here. So all of this will be closed off on, I believe it's closed off on Friday this year too. But Saturday, this is where the ride starts. The expo is back in this area, kind of behind the bike shop in these parking lots back here. And then packet pickup is right here, next to Gravel City Roasters. So it's in this area right here. So it all happens in a very condensed space, and you'll see signs that say packet pickup this way, expo this way, restrooms this way. It's all meant to be pretty easy to navigate. Um, Let me go back really quickly. Our shakeout ride. So if you want to join the Wheels of Welcome shakeout ride, which is for all of us, it will also be the All Bodies on Bike shakeout ride. That'll happen at 2 p.m. on Friday. We'll be out for about an hour. We're going to go about 13 miles. There's this really cool bridge. It's a local route called Murder Ordained. There's some cool history behind it that I'll try and brush up on before the shakeout ride. But it's a nice 13-mile ride, and it gets you introduced to the gravel of Emporia and the Flint Hills. And so we'll do that together at 2 p.m. There will be a very clearly marked area where the shakeout rides meet up and leave from. And so you'll want to start gathering there about 1:45 because we'll have wheels on the ground at 2 o'clock. And then at 4:30, there is an athlete meeting. I recommend if your schedule is free, make time in your schedule to go to the athlete meeting. You'll hear about any updates that have happened. You'll hear any further logistical things. I will say they also do tend to live stream this, so either on Instagram or Facebook. I can't guarantee that it'll happen, but if you're not able to make it to the athlete meeting at the Granada Theater, you can usually look for it online. And I found that to be pretty helpful. All right. So I talked about this already. The race start and finish both happen in Emporia as well. So if after your race is over, after your event is over, you will start in you'll finish in the same place that you started. There is lots of parking around. This is a question that often comes up from folks is where do I park? There is a lot of parking around downtown Emporia. Make sure you pay attention to the signs. If there's any that say 2-hour parking, don't park in a 2-hour parking spot on race day. But there's lots of residential streets, and please just make sure you're being a good person to the neighbor and not blocking any driveways or anything like that. There is also parking on the Emporia State campus for people who are staying in the dorms. I'm not sure about for other folks, but I've never heard of anybody having issues finding parking. But one thing to be aware of is because our distances start later in the morning, There are going to be people who are going to be showing up at like 5 o'clock in the morning. So if you're showing up a little bit later, you might have to go a little bit further from your parking spot, but you've got your bike. You're about to ride 25 or 50 miles. What's an extra couple blocks? No big deal there. Jackie, I will get to your question, I think, in just a second. Yes. So this is a screenshot that I took directly from the email they sent out today. All athletes have to use the Lifetime app to check in during packet pickup. I don't know anything about this other than literally this that I saw in the email. So I believe it's called the Lifetime app. I would imagine they're going to have some QR codes, but I bet if you download the app and have it ready to go, it's going to be a lot faster for check-in than all the people who didn't read their email or didn't go to the Wheels of Welcome meeting and have to download the app on the spot. So I think it's literally just called Lifetime. In the email that they sent out today, these links are clickable. So you should be able to click on those and then download it directly from there. Okay, some good to know things. So Emporia is a small but mighty town. They've got all the major services you could need. They've got a CVS, they've got a Walmart, they've got, phone stores, they've got all the things like that. The bike shop that I would recommend, it's the official partner of Unbound, is Merchant Cycles. It's smack dab downtown. They bring in a lot of extra staff to help out. So if you go on the shakeout ride and you realize your shifting is funny, or you're flying into town and you can't fly with your CO2 canisters, basically anything you need, the bike shop is going to have it. And I highly recommend going in there, saying hi to them, checking them out. They always do a really good job and they're just phenomenal people. They've also got some really cute merch. So if you're looking for a souvenir from your time at Unbound, I mean, yes, you'll get the Unbound shirt or socks or whatever it is they give us in our swag bag. But it can be really fun to also get something from the bike shop, either water bottle or socks or whatever. And then a couple tips that I wish somebody had told me my first year of going and staying in the dorms. This was my fifth year in the dorms, so obviously it's not that bad if it's my fifth time. But make sure you bring your own bedding. I know they talk about this a lot, but you walk in and it's just like college. You've got your twin bed, it's the extra long bed. I picked up a set of sheets from Walmart a couple years ago of the twin XL length sheets, and I've had them for 5 years, and they come out once a year for Unbound Week, and that's it. If you've got just regular twin sheets, they're not going to be long enough. So it might be worth it to invest a little bit. I like to bring like the full fitted sheet, top sheet, blanket, pillow because I want to sleep well. If you're there for 4 or 5 days, you want to sleep well. I'd also recommend bringing a power strip. There's very limited outlets in those rooms for some reason. Shower shoes because it is communal showers, although they're very clean. And then earplugs, especially if you are sensitive to noise, because it can get a little bit noisy in there. I'm curious if anybody doing Wheels of Welcome is staying in the dorms. You're welcome to, do an emoji or do something in the chat. I would just love to see that, to see who else I'm going to see there. Another topic I wanted to bring up that we haven't talked about already is severe weather. So this picture is actually a picture I took 2 years ago out on the course. I'm not a weather guru, but I saw this formation of clouds and kind of went, holy cow, what in the world is about to happen? And if you guys have seen Twister, I'm kind of aging myself right now, but if you've seen Twister, do you remember the scene where the cows are flying around all over the place? Well, this area that we were in was an open range area. And so all I could think about in my mind is, oh my God, there's going to be a tornado and there's going to be cows flying everywhere, and all I'm going to have is my bike. Thankfully, there was not a tornado. There were no cows flying everywhere. I did end up taking shelter in a ditch. Severe weather can happen, especially when you're out there over the course of an entire day. Doing the 25 and the 50, you won't be out there quite as long, but be prepared for severe weather. To that end, there's an app called My Alerts that you can sign up for and sign up for severe weather for Emporia, and that will send you alerts to your phone. Or you can just text the word Emporia KS to 38276, and that'll sign you up for their local alerts. But for anybody who's not from storm country, we get thunderstorms, we get tornadoes. I can get into more details if people have very specific questions, but just something to be aware of and something to be prepared for. It's not my favorite thing, and it can honestly get a little bit scary when you're out there riding and the winds pick up or the hail or the storm, and you just kind of got to figure out what to do. I've taken shelter under barns before. I've taken shelter in ditches. I've taken shelter next to a truck before, but hopefully we're not going to have to deal with any of that. And it's going to be perfectly beautiful, not too hot, not too humid, and not too windy. Those are my wishes for Unbound. Okay, so shakeout rides. I've already talked about this a little bit, but this is the official Wheels of Welcome one. It's going to be Friday at 2 p.m. We're going to go 13 miles and we'll meet at the corner of 8th and Commercial Street. There will be a whole like I said, a ride staging area. What to bring on a shakeout ride? Obviously, you need your bike, you need your helmet. I like to ride with any gear that I'm going to be riding with the next day. So my hydration pack, my bike computer, sunglasses, especially if you're riding with any new equipment or things that you haven't tested out very well. New pedals, new cleats. Well, I don't recommend doing that for race day. Sometimes it just happens and it's like, cool, I got a new set of pedals, let's try them out. So basically bring what you would on the shakeout ride as if you're getting ready for the next day. Um, Great question, Jay Adams, about how many riders might be on the shakeout ride. I feel like last year we had about 50. Um, Previous years we've had 100, some years we've had 25. It really just depends on who decides to show up. There are lots of shakeout rides throughout the day. So if there's another one that better fits your schedule, Chamois Butter is doing one. The Major Taylor Project is doing a shakeout ride. There's a group called Dirt Squad. That's another inclusive group. So look for a shakeout ride that looks good for you. We're riding in a group, but it's not necessarily a Peloton. Especially with our group, we're going to keep it to about 10 miles an hour, maybe a little bit slower, depending on how everybody's doing. We'll stick together. We'll make sure nobody gets left behind. And it's just a way, and I've talked about this last time, but to make sure that your bike is set up correctly, you rebuilt it correctly after travel, make sure that you like your tire pressure, and just make sure that your body is feeling good. The last thing we want to do is tire anybody out before the big ride on Saturday. That being said, Friday at 2 p.m. could be really, really hot. So if we get to Friday afternoon and you're like, oh no, I need to save my energy for tomorrow, I won't be offended. I would love to see as many faces there as possible, but know your body, make sure you're hydrating, make sure you're eating in the days leading up. But Friday afternoon at 2 p.m., we'll have the shakeout ride and it's going to be a good time. So for Saturday, the professional men who are let me back up. Races actually start on Friday afternoon. So the Unbound XL, the people that are riding 350 miles, will actually leave on Friday afternoon. And so they'll probably be leaving right around when we get back from our shakeout ride. And it can be really fun to watch them depart. They're very intrepid souls, and it's fun to see their bike setups versus our bike setups because they're prepared to be out there all night for multiple days and you know more than 24 hours of riding, which is just really cool to see. And so then that's Friday afternoon. On Saturday, the 200 goes first, and then the 100, then the 50, then the 25. And there's lots of start times within there. So, the professional men and women start as early as 5:50 and I think 6:05 a.m. And then everything else is staggered after that. But the ones that we need to worry about are the 50 and the 25. So the 50 goes off at 9 a.m. And the 25 goes off at 9:30 a.m. I like to get in the starting line chute about 15 minutes before. And as we talked about last time, you'll want to position yourself in the starting line chute at a place that feels appropriate for you. If you plan on going fast, you plan on, attacking, going hard, maybe position yourself more towards the front of the pack and towards the front of the group. If you're looking to take things more leisurely, maybe not as comfortable riding in large groups, position yourself towards the back of the group. And that'll give everybody a chance to kind of space themselves out and be less stressful if you are one of those folks. And this is me who I don't want to be around a ton of people. You're going to pass me anyway at the pace that I'm going. So you might as well pass me before we even start. And so when you see the start line and the starting chute, it'll make a whole lot more sense and you'll understand it. But just, position yourself in there, find some friends to ride with, be friendly with the people around you. And my other recommendation is while you're standing there waiting to start, eat a snack. You probably ate, 2, 3 hours ago at this point if you got up to have breakfast. So by this point, it's time to eat some more calories, because for gravel riding and endurance riding, the key to success is to eat often, and to keep your body fueled. I feel like in the other talks and classes that I give, I talk a lot more about hydration and nutrition and constantly be eating. And I feel like I haven't done a good job of talking about that with this group in particular. So keep eating always, always, always. Okay, so this is the same as last time. So if you were on the call last time, this will be a little bit of a review or a refresher, but it can't hurt to know the routes, right? So, and I'm only talking about the 25 and the 50. I personally am doing the 100. I haven't looked at that course yet. We'll figure it out. But all of the courses start and end in downtown Emporia. You'll get to end going through Emporia State University campus, which is kind of cool. Um, both the 25 and the 50 are relatively flat. I say relatively, I mean, there's still on the 55 mile, there's 1,600 feet of elevation gain. On the 25, there's less than that. But you've got some good hills, especially here in the middle. If you look at the bottom of this slide, you can see the elevation profile. And you can see, there's a couple little hills, and then in the middle, you've got about four good climbs in there, and they come right after each other, one after the other. So just something to be aware of. And then the other thing to look at is at the very, very end, in this bottom right corner, there's a little bit of a very sharp climb. And that is your very last hill when you're coming into Emporia. So that's on the Emporia State campus. It's kind of a butt kicker. It gets me every single time. But once you get up and over that very last hill, you're done. Um, Couple things to point out for our group. If you ever need to get off and walk your bike, which is totally fine, especially if you're climbing a hill, or just need to take a break, move to the right. So I really recommend, if you start thinking about it or you see a hill up ahead and you're like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to make it all the way up. Well, one, I want you to think positively and I want you to try as hard as you can to make that up that hill. But two, position yourself to the right. So if you're kind of riding in the middle of the road, move yourself over to the right as it's safe to do so. So that way, if you do need to get off, it's easy. You're already out of the way, and folks can just continue to go around you. For myself, I'm a slow climber. And so when I'm going up a hill anyway, I let folks um, all climb to the right and let folks go around me on the left. Um, it's also a really good idea if you are going to stop, if you're going to get off your bike, to verbalize that. There might be somebody right behind you that doesn't know that you're getting off and you're stopping, um, as to say, stopping, getting off my bike, and that way folks can know to get around you. Even if there's nobody around you, it can still be a really good thing to say. There is one potential mud section on the 50. I can't remember if I have a photo of it or not, but I can send a photo out. Last year it was this creek crossing that the creek crossing didn't seem too bad. A couple people went through it, most people walked through it, but then afterwards there was about 100 yards of mud, but there were clear walkways along the side. So nothing like if you've seen some of the videos from previous years where people's drivetrains are getting all gobbled up and mucked up. Um, that being said, things could change. While I was out there a couple weeks ago, I saw no other potential spots where even if it flooded, things would get muddy. But you never know. And I don't want you all to come back and say, well, Marley said there would be no mud. I want a refund. Nah, that's not the way it works. And Jackie, to answer your question, the 2025 route is not posted yet, but I have it on good authority that it's going to be the same as the 2024 route, which is where I pulled this from. I imagine they'll be posted in the next week or two on the Unbound website. So, on the 25-mile course, you are basically riding out to Americus and back. Americus is a really cute little town, not too far out of Emporia. It's 26.6 miles. So even though they say 25, you're actually riding almost 27, with 536 feet of elevation gain. And you can see through from the elevation profile, it's the elevation is spread pretty well throughout. I think the Ride with GPS has a tendency to make these look like mountains. But if you look at the scale, we're going from about 1,100 feet to 1,200 feet. So none of these hills are absolutely massive at all. There's just a few little ones. There is one aid station at the halfway point. It's a shared aid station with the 50-mile course. So if you're really zippy at the front of the 25-mile course, you might see some 50-milers still there. That happened to me last year. We were sitting there relaxing, hanging out, and these really fast 25-milers came up, and we are like, oh, I feel like that's a good indicator. We should get back on our bikes and ride our bikes. Um, and then, like I said, you'll finish back in Emporia. This caution sign is for a railroad crossing. So there is one railroad crossing on it. And like I mentioned, the big climb at the end, but it is paved. And so when you're looking at Ride with GPS, just to if you haven't spent much time in that software, where it's the striped lines is going to be gravel, and the solid line or the solid kind of brick color is road. So you can see, right around mile 11 when you get into Americus at the aid station, that'll be paved. But everything up to that, and then on the very back end. Is gravel. So lots of fun gravel in there for the folks that are doing the 25. For the 50, you are actually doing 55.1 miles, which is exciting, with about 1,600 feet of elevation gain. You get two aid stations, but it's the same aid station because it's kind of an out and back. You go out past Americus, past this reservoir that's really cool. And your aid station is like somewhere in here where my little arrow is. I don't know if you can see that. But it's at mile 11 and a half and then mile 40. So you're going to want to make sure you've got enough water on you that you can make it 30 miles in between aid stations. For me, that means I carry a hydration pack with I think it has a liter and a half reservoir of water, and then I'll have two bottles on my bike that I'll have electrolytes in. So making sure that you have enough water carrying capacity or figuring that out before Unbound, whether you need to add water bottle cages to another place on your bike or maybe think about a hydration pack. That can be a really good thing to think about. As far as to your question about do they block traffic on that pavement stretch? Um, I'm trying to remember. I believe when you're coming in through Americus, they do have that road blocked. And then when you're coming back into downtown through Emporia State, they have that closed to cars as well. But the rest of the time when we're on those gravel roads, they are open to the public. And if you run into other paved roads, they could be open to the public. It's always a safe assumption that the roads are open to the public. So make sure you're following the rules of the road, riding to the right, obeying stop signs, traffic lights, all of that stuff, because, even though we are only focused on one thing and that's making it to the finish line, drivers out there have no idea that we're doing this wild thing, and aren't necessarily looking out for cyclists. So, the long and short of that is kind of some roads are closed, some aren't, but safe to assume that the road is not closed. Okay, before I move on to what to carry, does anybody have questions about logistics, route, anything we've talked about so far? Okay, hearing none, we're gonna move on. So, what to carry? So on your body, you're going to need to carry nutrition, hydration, and a repair kit. Well, maybe not body, on your body or bicycle. I kind of talk about them as if they're one, because you will be with your bicycle all day long. It's now your newest appendage. Excuse me, goodness. For nutrition. Like I said, I'm not a coach, I'm not a nutritionist, but I've done this a lot. You need to eat more than you think you need to eat. Most of the folks that I encounter who are having a hard time or are really, really tired, when you ask them, when's the last time you ate a snack? They say, oh, it was 10 miles ago. Like you should be eating more frequently than every 10 miles, whether that's just a gel or a couple bites of something. You want to be eating, and you're aiming for 150 to 180 calories per hour. Um, you know, everybody's nutrition needs are different, but it can be really helpful to do some reading on nutrition. I mean, the professional athletes are aiming to get like 130 grams of carbs per hour. I don't get as nerdy on that side of things of looking at carbs and protein and all that. But you really want to make sure that you are continually eating. If you follow me on Instagram, you might have seen that I make this magic trail mix that I carry along on the bike with me. I put it in a Ziploc baggie, but it has gummy bears, it has peanut butter M&Ms, and it has Nerds candy. And I don't eat like that other times when I'm not riding my bike. I'm not a huge candy person. But with that trail mix, I have it in a little bag up by my handlebars, and I'm just continually all day snacking on it. In fact, I actually have a reminder set up on my bike computer that at certain intervals, it reminds me to eat and it reminds me to drink. And it's super annoying having to turn that off, but I found that it works really well because I actually do remember to feed and to hydrate myself, which is great. Um, and I continually preach this. You're gonna meet people at the expo. They're gonna give you samples of things and try this new thing. Don't change your nutrition for race day. So if you've been living off of peanut butter and jelly sandwiches on your training rides, bring a loaf of peanut butter and jelly and peanut butter, or bring a loaf of bread and peanut butter and jelly and make yourself some sandwiches in the dorms or your housing. If you, whatever you've been training with as your food, try and keep it as um, close to that as possible. Um, Jackie, I really love the Wahoo bike computers, but I have other friends who swear by the Garmin. I would just look and see what's on sale. They're all got great functionality. Yeah, I was to say check check Marketplace, check your friends groups. A lot of people are continually upgrading equipment and things that work perfectly fine. Excuse me, I'm getting over, I don't know if it was a cold or allergies, but my throat is a little funny right now. Excuse me. As far as hydration goes, you do not want to be caught out there without water. Like I said, for those doing the 50 mile, you're going to need to go from mile 11 and a half to mile 40 without a resupply. So you need at least two bottles. Um, and then, like I said, I like to carry a hydration pack as well. One thing to practice right now, we've still got over a month to go. Make sure you can eat and drink on your bicycle. So whether that means going to a parking lot and practice riding with one hand while getting your water bottle out or eating food, it's really, really important that you can still safely navigate your bicycle while getting your water bottle in and out. If you find that a little bit harder, the hydration pack can help a lot because all you have to do is move the straw from your shoulder up to your mouth. And that I found can be really, really helpful. And then we are going to spend more time talking about the repair kit, but don't forget your personal needs. So sunscreen, chapstick, trying out other things you might need out there, glasses cleaners, whatever you think is going to help you out there. If you take it on your bike rides normally, bring it on your bike rides now or for Unbound. Um, and then I think we're going to talk about the repair kit. Not quite. This is me. I'm going to get on my soapbox a little bit here and talk about preparation for success. So, your job on Friday night is to do all the prep you need to do for Saturday. And so, what I like to think about is Saturday morning, if I missed my alarm clock and I had 5 minutes to get ready, could I do it? And with this, I'm going to call it a system, or basically with this plan, you can, because you're going to lay out everything the night before. You're going to lay out your riding clothes, including your bra, your heart rate monitor, your socks, your shoes, your helmet, your sunglasses. You're going to put it all in one place. Wherever that's at in your house that you're going to be getting ready, like literally everything, your bibs, your jersey, anything that's going on your body, put it in one place so it can't be left behind. And when you get dressed, put it all on, even if that means, because if you're getting up at 6 in the morning, your sunglasses, you're not going to need them, but make sure you've got your sunglasses, all of those little things. The night before, you're also going to want to charge all of your devices. So whether that's your headphones or your phone or your bike computer or your bicycle, maybe you're riding an e-bike, make sure that that's charged. Maybe you've got electronic shifting on your bicycle. Make sure that all of those doodads and whiz bangs are charged. The power strip will come in handy for that as well. I also really recommend filling your bottles and your hydration packs the night before. I don't put them in the fridge because I'll forget them, but some people put them in the fridge and then they remember to get them out. But I fill all my bottles and I actually go ahead and put my bottles onto my bicycle. So that way they are there, they are full, they are ready to go, and I can't forget them. I see lots of people show up to the start line without their water bottles, and it's like an, oh crap, I left it in the fridge. So eliminate that room for mistake and fill your bottle and put it on your bike the night before. Um, Also confirm that you've got the route loaded to your device. So once they release the routes, I'm sure they're going to send out an email about them. You're going to want to download the route. So you can use it on your phone. You can do Ride with GPS on your phone. You can also do it on your bike computer, kind of whatever works for you. I also believe, and I'm hesitant to say this in case it's different, but last year they had both the 25 and the 50-mile course marked. So there were little signs out there telling you where to go. Although I know in years past they've had issues with people taking down the signs, and so they like for everybody to be totally self-sufficient out there. Um, One little trick, if you find yourself coming up to an intersection and you're really not sure which way to go and you're out there by yourself, look for tire tracks in the dirt and the dust and see which direction you see the tire tracks going. So that can work really well. So morning of, make sure you eat a good breakfast. Give yourself a mix of carbs, protein, things that'll be long lasting. And then, like I said earlier, pack yourself a second breakfast for the start. So, maybe that's another breakfast burrito. Maybe that's half a PB&J. Maybe that's a bar. Maybe it's a banana. Just something so that when you're standing there after you've gotten yourself ready, you have one last not last, but one good burst of energy as you're getting going. And then finally, relax and get a good night's sleep, which is so much easier said than done because you're full of nerves and excitement. And that's okay because it's going to be an awesome day. Okay, so let's talk about what happens when things go wrong. Hopefully, fingers crossed, absolutely nothing is going to go wrong. But if it does, I want you to come back to this moment in April and say, oh my God, I remember Marley taught me this. So, first thing is just take a deep breath. You're going to be okay. It's just a bike ride. It's just a flat tire. It's just, you name it, XYZ that's going wrong. Take a deep breath, calm down. I also recommend eating a very quick snack. I know that sounds silly when you are like, I've got a tire to change, I've got all these other things, but it's probably been a while since you've eaten. And so getting a quick bite of something as you start this repair process is going to make your life a whole lot easier. You don't have to eat a full meal, but just eat a quick snack, and then do your assessment. Obviously you need to move out of the way. Hopefully you already are out of the way, but find yourself some shade. It gets hot out there. There are some sections where there's not a lot of shade. And if you're spending, 5, 10, 15 minutes changing a flat tire, you're going to want to be as protected from the sun as possible. And then evaluate your situation. So you're calm, you're fed, and you're going to check it out. So, first thing is, can I continue to ride and maybe fix this at the aid station? So that might, I'm trying to think about an example of what that might be. Maybe your shifting is a little bit funny. Oftentimes at the aid station, there will be a mechanic there. I don't know for sure. But that's something that, your bike is still running, but maybe you're having trouble getting into your specific gear that you want to be in. I wouldn't necessarily fiddle with that on the side of the road, if you can still shift and if you can still ride your bike. So I would continue on and fix that at the aid station. If it's a situation of, can this be repaired? Can I or somebody else repair this? So that would be, you get a flat tire. Totally fixable. Hopefully you're going to have all the stuff with you to fix it. Even if you don't know how to fix it, although there is still time for you to learn, we still have a month. Somebody coming by, will hopefully be able to help you out with that repair. I how do I want to phrase this? You should not rely on other people for that, and you should be self-sufficient. But there are, still things that happen to me on my bike where it's like, well, if that happens, I know it can be fixed. I know I have seen other people fix it, but I would need somebody else's help with it. Um, and then kind of the other assessment is this a ride ender? Maybe you have a gash in the side of your tire that can't be repaired. Maybe you broke your derailleur totally apart. There's a couple of catastrophic things that can happen that it's like, well, that's the end. They will give us a phone number that you can call to have, I believe they have SAG on the 25 and the 50, but you should also have the number of somebody that's in the Emporia area who can come and pick you up. And you'll just want to tell them where you're at and then make yourself comfy as you wait for your ride to come pick you up. So this is what I have in my repair kit. Um, tools only work if you know how to use them. So make sure that whatever you have, you are confident with using it and familiar with it. So probably most important is a multi-tool. I like to carry a spare bolt or two. This is especially important if you ride with cleats. Um, Cleats on the like if you clip into your pedals, cleats have this magical way of coming loose, especially on big event days. So I recommend buying a spare set of cleat bolts and just carrying them in your repair pack. Because as I learned the hard way a couple years ago, while they might look like they're the same, cleat bolts are actually flat on the top because it's like recessed into your shoe, and taking another random bolt off your bicycle will not fix that issue for you. So I like to carry extra bolts to fix other things on my bike, but then cleat specific bolts if you do clip in. Um, I like to carry a zip tie or two. You never know when that will come in handy. It's usually for somebody else, not for you, but it's nice to have. And then as silly as it sounds, I like to have a snack in my repair kit because it's just a good reminder to me when I start to do that repair of like, oh, maybe I should eat a snack. And I usually don't eat the one that's in my repair kit. In fact, I just checked my kit for the season to make sure everything was in there, and I had expired food from 2022. So don't do that. Put fresh food in your repair kit. And then you might have noticed I haven't talked about the flat kit or the inner tube. So regardless of if you are riding tubeless or with inner tubes, carry a spare tube. Sometimes you will get a flat that on your tubeless setup that just can't be repaired, and you just need to throw an inner tube in there. So even if you're tubeless, carry a spare tube. And then for your flat kit, this is going to differ for everyone. So I've got some specifics on here for what should be in a flat repair kit, but like I said, everybody's is different. So I carry Dynaplugs. I should have had it here so I could show you. But essentially, it's like a little dart looking thing that you put into a tire puncture, and it puts this rubber compound in there. It's hard to explain, but essentially it seals punctures on tubeless tires. Everybody's going to need tire levers, regardless of if you're tubed or tubeless. I already mentioned the spare tube. You're going to need an inflation device of your choice. And I like to have backup. So a pump is a great idea, a little mini hand pump. And then I also carry a CO2 inflator and CO2 cartridges. As a reminder, you can't fly with CO2 cartridges. So if you are opting to use those, you'll need to go to the bike shop to pick some of those up. And then if you are running tubeless, you'll also need a valve core removal tool in case you need to take your valve core out. Lots of bike shops right now are offering fix-a-flat classes or clinics. If you are not familiar with how to change a flat tire, please, please, please do yourself a favor and at least watch a YouTube video before Unbound. Ideally, you're going to go to a clinic, you're going to go to a class, you're going to get a flat tire, you're going to give yourself a flat tire, and you're going to learn how to change it. But make sure you know how to take your wheels off your bike, whether it's a quick release or a through axle. Make sure you know how to get your wheels back on and off your bike. Lots of people get hung up there, and it's a really simple thing once you know how to do it. But it's really important that you learn that. Unbound does give you, well, they don't give you zip ties to tie your number plate on the bike. They'll give you pipe cleaners. So when you go to pack up pickup, you will get your bib plate and pipe cleaner tools to attach it to your bicycle. Okay, I'm not going to go off on my spiel like I did last time, um, but we're coming down to crunch time now. And on Unbound Day, there are a million things that are out of your control. Not a million, but some big ones. The weather, the conditions, the wind direction, all of those things are completely out of your control. However, there are a lot of things that are under your control that if you get on top of them and make sure they're great, then the rest doesn't matter quite as much. And so those things are, your bike fit and your setup. If your bike isn't comfortable now, now is the time to get that addressed. If your hands are going numb, if your feet are going numb, if your neck or your shoulder, any of that is causing you issues, try and get a bike fit. If you can't afford to get a whole bike fit, go to your local bike shop, chat with them a little bit, and they might be able to help you make some small minor adjustments to make it more comfortable. Your tire pressure. Um, maybe you're not riding a lot of gravel at home. Maybe you don't have gravel around you. So you're not quite sure what you want your tire pressure to be when we get to Emporia. That's a good thing to try out during the shakeout rides. Test out, do you like it harder? Do you like it softer? And then what I like to do is if I'm driving to town, which I will be, I take a pump with me, a big floor pump. But the bike shop will have pumps, lots of vendors at the expo will have pumps, and so there'll be plenty of pumps around if you need to air up your tires. Excuse me. Things like mechanical prep, nutrition plans, hydration plans, those are all the things you should be figuring out now during your training rides. And it's still not too late. Even if you haven't started training, I'm still confident that in a month you can get yourself ready to ride 50 miles. And I'm a firm believer that if you can ride 10 miles, you can ride 50 miles. You just need to keep eating, keep drinking, and one pedal stroke at a time. Um, does anybody have any questions on this? I realize it's a little soapboxy, but I'm a really firm believer in this, and I've seen a lot of people um, have success just by, getting all the elements under control that they can. Okay. Tire sealant. Yeah, actually, that's a good point. I don't know if you're asking a question, Ben, but if you are running tubeless tires, make sure you have fresh sealant in your tires. So it's really easy to do yourself, but it's also easy to do at the bike shop. Just make sure you get some fresh sealant in there. Orange Seal is usually at the expo and does tire sealant checkups and top offs for you. But yeah, check your tire sealant. Jackie, where do you live? And I can do some searching for you about getting about a class to change tires. If you just want to put in the chat where you live, I can do some searching after this. Oh yeah, I will. I'll email you. Sorry, I'm just making a note. Um, cool. And that is what I have for you. So I would love to open it up if folks want to come off of um, come back on the video. You guys are welcome to ask me questions. We can also put it into the chat, whatever works best for you. Lindsay, great question. Are there cutoff times for the 50? There are not cutoff times for the 50. Um, the course closes at 3 in the morning, so you just have to get back in before then.
Question from your experience doing the 50 as a slower rider myself, in a lot of the smaller gravel events I've done in Wisconsin, I tend to be riding all alone without anyone else ever coming by. Have you seen many other people coming by you when you're at a pace that you might consider slower, or is it pretty? Because I feel like it's a bigger ride. So do you
Yeah.
tend to have a lot of people around?
Yes. I wouldn't say a lot of people, but there are usually friends around, unless you're like extremely slow. But I tend to, depending. if you're going, I'd say above 7 or 8 miles an hour, you'll have people around to ride with you.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Oh, great question, Cynthia. Cynthia asks, what has the weather been like in the past years you have ridden the ride? Um, the first year was really, really hot. I actually, the first year I did it, I was with a film crew, and the film crew thankfully had extra cases of water, and we ended up giving water to like four different people who had run out of water. The next 2 years were crazy storms and muddy. Those were the 2 years that I did the 100. And we went south on both of those. So the way that Unbound does it is they have a north course and they have a south course, and it rotates every 2 years. So this year we'll be going north again. So if you did the course last year, or if you see people's experiences from last year, it'll be similar to that. The 2 years when it was really muddy was when we went south. And then last year was like a picture perfect day. It was honestly a little bit chilly. It was in the 70s, and it was just a beautiful day. Um, Question about, can we assume the athlete's guide from last year will be roughly the same for this year? Husband is doing the 100 and like to be extra prepared. Yes. The athlete's guide, you should 100% read that. They haven't updated it yet for 2025, but it's going to be 99% the same. So if you're real chomping at the bit to get those details, go ahead and read the athlete's guide. It's super helpful. Have any newbies on this call done the 50 before? Can you describe your first experience? Anybody want to pop in? And Denise, I know Denise Bird is on the call. I don't know if you want to pop in and um,
Hi.
do you want to
I
pop in
did
and say
I
what
did
you're?
the 50 last year and it was amazing. It was perfect weather. A little cool in the morning, little warm in the afternoon, hardly any wind at all. But it was I was really nervous that I would never finish it and I did. So it was really fun. I had a great day on the bike in the back. Yeah,
And it was good enough that you're coming back this year for more.
absolutely. Yes. That's right.
Yeah.
What's
Anybody else?
what's at the aid station? Like what? I haven't been on I've only been on one gravel ride before, but what is at the aid station that you'll stop for?
Yeah. So I feel like there's usually Oreos, bananas, chips. They always have hydration, so they'll have big water jugs, and then they'll usually have electrolytes as well. I feel like there's usually pickles, usually some pretzels or peanut butter pretzels. If you have any dietary restrictions, like if you're gluten-free or have nut allergies, I would recommend making sure you have enough snacks that you don't have to be reliant on the aid stations. But it's just snack food. I feel like last year I chugged a Coke and ate some Cheetos, and then my tummy hurt. We do not yet know which company is sponsoring the aid station. Yeah, I don't know which one is sponsoring it yet. That's a good question. One resource that I wanted to put in the chat for you guys is, oh gosh, and this feels a little silly, but a couple of years ago, when it was my first century, I worked with Pearl Izumi, who made a film about my experience. And while 100 miles is different than 50 or 25, this will give you a good feeling for what the expo looks like, for what Emporia kind of looks like, what the vibe is like. And I think it's like a 7 minute long video. It's not very long. Um, oh no, it's like a 10-minute video, but it's really cute. It's called Journey to Unbound, and I just put the link into the chat. Ben just put something really kind on in the chat. If anybody wants to connect with him on Instagram, he put his Instagram name. Um, he's a good friend of mine. We ride bikes together all the time, so Ben is a good person to reach out to. And then yeah, feel free to email me if you as you think of other things. I will be in Emporia starting on Tuesday, so I'll try and do updates on my social media about what is going on there. But I'm really excited to meet all of you and hopefully see you all at the Shakeout ride. Um, All Bodies on Bikes will have a tent at the expo, so swing by there. I should be there most of the weekend, but I'm also easy to find. Just ask people if you've seen Marley, and would love to meet all of you. So thanks for spending your Thursday evening, and I really hope Unbound is successful for everyone. And I will send out the link on this tomorrow. But for now, I am done working. Thank you, everyone.
Well, it was nice to meet you.
Nice to meet
See you in a
you.
month.